This is Abdullah Kashmuri, Class CIS220, that's Structure and Elementary Algorithm, and this is Class 9 assignment, index search. First, I would like to apologize for calling everything sequence search. It was stuck in my head, and I just went with the name, then I realized later it's actually index search. Anyway, this is my main class. This is where I'm running everything. The first two are commented because these creating my sequence search file, which is this text file. So it just sorted the numbers, and I have the number, and these are the places where it occurred on the original file. To start this, first this is going to create a non-repeated list. This is the same from last week. The sequential search that created a non-repeated list. So I just copied that, and it's the same thing. It created me a list and returned me that list. Then I start building my file, and then I take that non-repeated list, and each number I start recording its positions. And to do that, I just go through the file and I set the counter or position to 1, so that I don't have to start from 0. I can because if I start from 0, then the numbers are going to be off by 1. So I started from 1, which made my number actually not off by 1, but exactly which line in the original file this is the number. And what it's going to do is every time it's going to see the number, it's simply going to put that position, which is the number with the counter, over here. After it's done all that, it's going to create the sequential search file. There's also a small file that has the length, just the length of the list. I saved it into that in case I'm going to need it later. The next thing is just different functions on the sequential search file, like get position by giving the number, and it's going to return the positions for that number. And the way it's going to do it is we're going to give the number, it's going to look at the first number. Once it finds it, it's going to return us whatever after the comma. So the way I'm doing it is separating the two values by the comma. The first value is going to be my number. The second one will be the positions. And if I want to get a certain position or get them back as an integer, I can separate them again into a list and get each one individually. The second function is get number at. So let's say the position is at 400 or like 7,000 or something like that. So simply it's going to get me from this position and not these. So this is we're talking about in the index list, that position, that is what's going to get me. And it is useful when I get the range, because I can get the first number and the last number and just subtract them from each other, and that's going to give me the range. And the way it's going to do it is just going to look at the counter, and until that position is going to equal to the count, then that is my number, and return me the one to the left. The next one is the most or least. So this whole function is going to get me the most common and the least common. And the way I do it is I take the number and I count how many numbers are in here, how many integers. If there are 2, then that means it showed up twice. If this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so this count for this one is 5, and so on. And that's going to be a lot easier than having to check all the list of how many times it occurred. And then it's going to return me that number and its count. And the way to specify whether it's least or most, if I wrote most to the command or to the method, is going to return me the most, and if I else is going to return me the least common. So this is the class. I commented because I already created the file. It takes 8 minutes to create, so that's why I commented out. So these are some files here, some functions here at the bottom to check them, and shouldn't take long. So it took 1 second to do all the different functions. That took me 24 minutes. If we include the 8, then it did take me 8 minutes. So the first one is gonna get me the position for this number, and these its positions. The number at 6, this is the number. This is the most common number, so it's this number, and its count is 8. And this one is to get me the range. It's kind of a long function because I had to get the length of the list and then say that the last number minus the first number, which is going to give me that number, which is the range.